Welcome back to the Baal Shalom's Matan Torah with commentary by Rabbi Avraham Mordechai Gottlieb. We are in the first essay of giving, again, a time to act. We are towards the bottom of page 35. In the last class, we spoke about what it means to have an authentic rabbi, what it means to be a qualified rabbi, and what to look for if one is searching for a spiritual master to connect to. Also, we spoke about the concoctors of potions that we'll reference in this class, being those who are spreading the wisdom inauthentically in order to serve their own desires, and how it increased with the creation of the printing press, so on and so forth. So we'll speak more about that today. Yisrat Hashem. Just give me a moment. I'm going to pull up the class in case anyone is watching, wants to ask any questions. All right. Sorry, but they're about the bottom of page 34, paragraph starting, and lately. The Baal Shalom begins. And lately the stench of such people has been growing. Which people? The inauthentic authors of Kabbalah. For they have also sunk their fingernails into the wisdom of Kabbalah without their being aware that this material is locked and bolted with 1,000 seals which are still in place. Now, in contrast to this, we see that many of the seals have been opened, and the Baal Shalom revealed much in terms of the truth of what's going on in regards to receiving and giving throughout the Torah and its deep wisdom. At the same time, it's interesting to consider the challengers of Kabbalah and its masters throughout the generations who have said things like, the generation is not ready, or it's too much. So perhaps there is a truth to what they're saying in the sense that when considering the entire breadth of the wisdom, what has been revealed is what is practical and needed for humanity to use in order to gain its correction. And that is actually a sliver of all of the wisdom, which is relatively infinite. So in truth, it's massive. And the challengers are hinting at the truth of the wide breadth. But the Creator has only revealed that which is necessary for us, and has given permission to masters like the Baal Sulam and the Arizal and Rebbe Shimon Bar Yochai and so forth to reveal such matters over the generations. He continues, thus anyone who attempts to delve within the Kabbalah will be unable to understand the proper significance of even one word, and certainly not the connection between one word and another. Important to note that even in the learning itself, the Baal Shalom says if one doesn't understand a single word, they won't understand anything. What is written is an exacting formula, an exacting structure. And if one piece is missing, the whole thing is dust. Amazing to contemplate and to consider for oneself how important it is to clarify all that matters, to ensure that there is clarity and understanding, and therefore all the more so important to connect to an authentic tradition and spiritual master or teacher. The Baal Shalom continues, for all the true books of Kabbalah that have been written up to this very day consist of only subtle hints, and they are barely adequate for a pupil who does have prior understanding to receive the interpretation of the hints directly from a qualified Kabbalah sage. Whether by way of hints via the books of Kabbalah itself, or by way of Chassidut, which also deals mainly in hints as it pertains to our inner work in Kabbalah, because Chassidut in itself was manifested in order to bring these large ideas and principles to the most basic individuals so that they can apply them despite being unlearned, so that they can have a simple faith and a simple understanding of deep spiritual concepts. But because of this dynamic, everything had to be written by way of hints, so that those who are progressing slowly but surely can draw from them or receive them directly from their spiritual master. It's kind of fun to read this in contrast. Myself, having been exposed to the Torah and the Kabbalah of the Baal HaSulam, what very little I've been exposed to, the Piticha L'Chochmat Kabbalah, for example, and a sliver of the Talmud Sfirot, but to see the exacting nature and clarity of the matters, the commentaries, and how everything is made in such a way to ensure that one will not fall in their understanding or have imaginings, God forbid. Of course, if they're learning with the authentic Kabbalah master or tradition. But to see the contrast of the subtle hints that we're reading here to the great clarity that we have now, considering this was written before the Baal Sulam revealed all these matters within the Petichach Chochmat Kabbalah, which is a short version of the Talmud Esra Sfirot, and the Sulam commentary on the Zohar, of course. The Baal Sulam continues here also, quote, "There will the great owl make her nest, and lay and hatch and brood under her shadow." From Isaiah or Yeshayahu 34:15. The Rebbe Shlita says on the spot, the great owl is a bird of prey that nests and breeds. The prophet Isaiah wants to express that this is the situation after the destruction of the temple, that in the most significant places, birds of prey are nesting. The parable is saying that in the soul of Judaism, that is, in the wisdom of Kabbalah, are dwelling, even today, birds of prey that haven't the faintest knowledge of the inner meanings of things and who are destroying and trampling everything. To add to this, I think it's important to note that there are also birds of prey who do have the faintest knowledge. Here the Rebbe Shita is referencing those who have no connection, but there are also those who have a connection, sometimes even to a great degree, and who are also perhaps able to be considered such a bird of prey, being that there are ways of Kabbalah learning that do not clarify the exacting tradition of the service of the Creator being the balanced life of Torah and mitzvot by ways of the soul of the Torah and the halacha to balance it. It's written that halacha itself, considering everything has its spiritual root, provides oneself with powers of consciousness to delineate between right and wrong, truth and falsehood, because that's what the halacha is dealing with. Halacha is from the language of holech, of the way of walking, the way of how to go, ideally with the help of the Creator in the right direction. The Zohar Kodesh says that one without the other is klipa, meaning just the soul of the Torah without the body is like a soul without a body. And just the body, the Torah without the soul, is like a golem, a lifeless form. So what happens is that there are ways that provide an individual with the confidence that, for example, just the inner dimension of the Torah is enough, that it will fulfill all the needs to make one's correction. This is clearly not something that the Baal Sulam or Rebbe Baruch Shalom, his son and successor, the Rebbe Zitzal, ever said or would agree to. To be fair, such paths have been a stepping stone for individuals, myself included. But to look at the big picture over decades of time, the number that have taken the step forward to introduce the balanced diet of soul and body is very minuscule. And the reason is that there is a confusion and a disorientation of consciousness that occurs when being exposed and met to the learning in a matter that is not authentic to its tradition and is not coming from the pure source that is the authentic Kabbalah sage, whoever that may be. In the case of the Rebbe Shlita, who is providing us our commentary here, he is the direct line of the Baal Sulam, then the Rebbe Zitzal, and so Rabbi Avraham Mordechai Gadlieb, who is continuing the way. And there are other authentic paths as far as this specific learning of the inner dimensions of the Torah. I'm just painting a picture, as there are other paths that lead individuals into strange vineyards, and they can get caught for many, many years. To be fair, the Rebbe Zitzal says that the most important thing an individual can do for oneself is to have a community, is to again and again choose a greater surrounding in order to go up in levels. Meaning one must continually choose for themselves a better surrounding. Because in truth, we are who our friends are. Even a totally wicked person who, God forbid, even takes pleasure from wicked actions and causing suffering to others can be influenced to come to the good way by ways of the aura, energy, and holiness of a holy community. To continue the words of the Baal Sulam, I'm going to backtrack a little bit. Here also, quote, "There will the great owl make her nest, and lay and hatch and brood under her shadow. And in our time, there have multiplied the conjurers." The translator here says, in Hebrew, the word for conjurers is similar to the word for authors. That by using Kabbalah, concoct such potions that are disgusting for anyone who observes them. The Rebbe Shita says on the spot, what is disgusting is that people who know nothing and have no authentic inner perception of spiritual levels, by way of self-refinement, make a pretense by posing and dressing themselves as those who know and understand the inner meaning of the Torah. They deliver rulings and guidance to those who would serve God and are even considered authorities regarding higher levels, and they're regarded as the greats of the generation. Erev Tov, Reb Tzvi. Thanks for joining. We've been exposed to the concept of if one needs help with their foot, they would go to a foot specialist. So why would one who needs a foot specialist go to someone who deals with the arm or the stomach or the head? I think it's important to note here that the greats of the generation can be involved in learning, can be exposed But in terms of the most inner manners, as we're learning here, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're masters. Could be comparing the greatest of the generation in regards to learning of healing and being a doctor or the sciences to someone who's still learning it in college or even going for their PhD, but it's not quite there. In any case, we'll continue, God willing, shortly, and finish A Time to Act, hopefully, in the next class. Looking forward. Thanks for joining. Kol Tuf.